Hello?
Hi, Reba, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Are you able to hear me okay now?
Yes, I can now. Could
Okay.
you not hear me before?
I could hear you. It was only on your end where it was a difficulty. I hear you fine.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to try it again, okay?
All right.
Reba, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. All right. So, okay, I am now recording.
Okay.
There we go. Let me make sure all these levels are good. Okay. All right. So, what is your first and last name? How do you want to be identified?
Oh, you can refer to me as Reba, but my channel is 51-50, a space, and then 5-0. That's my YouTube channel. As I said, you can refer to me as Reba.
Okay, great. So, what is a First Amendment auditor?
A First Amendment auditor uses the First Amendment, which covers the freedom of expression, including freedom of the press. As you know, being a journalist yourself, I'm an independent journalist, and I use my First Amendment right to record pictures, video of public buildings, public property, including public lobbies of all of our public buildings that the taxpayers provide. I video public servants that our tax dollars pay for, and it gives them the opportunity to act however they wish, and I give them an open forum to behave in any manner they prefer to. I've had wonderful encounters with officers that are curious to what I'm doing or are just respectful, and the ones that go above and beyond by the way they treat me as a member of the public. Whenever they go above and beyond, I call their supervisors and make official compliments. So it will go in their file as being everything we want law enforcement to be. And I treat it just as a complaint if they go against policy or are wrong in what they do. But the goal of my channel is to use my First Amendment right to hold public servants accountable for their actions, whether it be positive or negative.
And I've got to ask you, Reba, am I being recorded right now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Is that why you wanted me to call you on this line?
Right. I use other people's phones in case there was the chance of the police getting curious. Say if I videoed an officer and they wanted to know who I was because they were upset at the negative feedback to their behavior. And so I try to keep myself anonymous to avoid police retaliation, or if the general public had an issue with what I was doing and it embarrassed someone that they know and love, because all officers are their mothers, fathers, children of some parents, and if they behave in a way that embarrasses the department or them as part of the public, then they might want to pull me over if they see me or do something to retaliate if their video in particular showed them in an embarrassing light.
Okay, Reba, I'm going to have to... let me stop this, and I am going to have to... I don't know what our rules are as far as recording a phone call from our station. Because I'm calling from our station. I'd rather check with my bosses. FCC guidelines require us to let people know when they are being recorded.
Uh-huh.
And so let me talk. I don't know the rules, honestly, about if I'm being recorded, and I didn't know it until I asked you.
Okay.
So let me talk to my boss, but I am going to stop it right now.
No problem. And the reason I'm recording is, for one, it's a one-party state where you can, but there's always that chance that a person could cherry pick my responses, and then I would have my own record as to exactly the way the interview went, in case things were taken out of context. Just like, since we're off the record now, as far as you calling, Inside Edition.
No, I haven't stopped. I haven't stopped recording.
That's fine.
I need to stop recording.
That's fine.
Okay.
But Inside Edition.
I'm not going to talk anymore while I'm being recorded, though.
No problem.
Either.
No problem.
Okay. All right. Bye.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I can, and I just started recording you too.
Okay. All right. So yesterday, the only question we went over was what are First Amendment auditors, so I don't need to ask that again. More on the local level, why did you decide to, what about the booking unit, the mobile booking unit, sort of caught your attention?
I had actually left Central Headquarters to file a compliment on a Metro police officer that went above and beyond, doing a great job in speaking with me, and I was so impressed. As I was leaving, I saw the humongous mobile booking unit truck and had absolutely no idea what it was for. I actually thought maybe it's a PR thing because they had a canopy, and I thought they might have pamphlets there, maybe explaining what they did or trying to recruit people. And so I approached them to ask them what that big, beautiful truck was for that our tax dollars paid for. And that was what attracted me to it.
What is your goal? What was your goal in your interaction when you went up to the officer?
Just a simple question of what is this humongous, beautiful truck for? What is its function? What does it do in general? I didn't know it was a mobile booking unit. I had absolutely no idea. So I just wanted to ask him, being a public servant, what is this big truck for?
In your opinion, how did the interaction go?
I thought it was very saddening. For one, our tax dollars pay for the truck. He is a public servant, as well as the other 4 people that were working there that day. And his immediate response was to get behind the cones. And I was taken aback at the attitude, because most interactions I have with law enforcement are positive. And he said, get behind the cones. And then he got his cell phone out and began recording me. And when law enforcement does that, technically it begins an investigation. So I requested he not delete that I could public request that. And I asked him his name and badge number, which is policy of any law enforcement agency in the country that I have ever known. He refused to tell me. The lady who was there with him refused to speak at all. And he refused to tell me. He said, it's right here on my shirt. I asked him again, it's right here on my shirt. And him being a public servant, following policy, simply identifying yourself to the public is standard operating procedure. And so I was quite shocked he had that attitude with just a member of the public who was curious to what the truck was for.
Okay, just really quickly, Reba, I would have to independently confirm that a law enforcement officer filming someone else would begin an investigation, because I don't know that independently, so I'm happy to try to independently confirm that.
No problem.
As far as the policy itself, it is, they sent it over to me, and I'm going to read it to you. So they said that this interaction fell under Policy 1-1.151, timely responses and professional interaction. And I can send this to you, but really what it says is that DCSO employee interactions with others, such as the public, other agencies, the inmate population, vendors, and volunteers, are courteous, professional, and appropriately responsive. Now, it does not say anything specifically in this policy about if someone asks for a badge number or officer number, employee number. It does not say anything if someone asks a question about that person's name, anything like that. What does that say to you?
I think it is a poor reflection on the department. I shouldn't have to fall under a certain category for them to identify themselves to the citizens in which they serve. They are our public servants, and identifying yourself to the public should not be burdensome, and they shouldn't even have to have a policy to address that. It's common courtesy, especially when our tax dollars pay their salaries. He makes, I think, approximately almost $57,000 per year, he himself. And when our tax dollars pay for that, we have every right to interact with them, especially when I was inquiring about a huge truck that was paid for by our tax dollars. We, to me, have a right to know how our tax dollars are being spent, and we should be treated with courtesy and respect.
What is your reaction to Sheriff Hall? We did interview him, and he said that this deputy was not in any violation of policy.
Then I think they need to review their policies and make it a policy. But my question to Sheriff Hall is, was the behavior of that officer indicative of a public servant? Was his behavior indicative of the way he wants to represent the sheriff's office, the department as a whole, to the community in which they serve? Is that the message he wants to send? Is it's us against them mentality?
Just so I clarify, before you said that it should not have to be covered by a policy, and then in my second question, in a follow-up question rather, you said that you do think it should be in a revised policy. Do you think that interactions with the public, like the one you had, should be in a policy?
Definitely. I mean, just the same as a Nashville Metro police officer, if it was someone working for any agency in which our tax dollars pay their salary, they are public servants. So they should be accountable to the public. And the simple courtesy of identifying yourself shouldn't even have to make it to a policy. It should be standard of any public servant.
And now Sheriff Hall did say that the policy that I just read you, in part, that is just in part, it's longer, but I can just send it to you, that he did say that the policy is being revised. He believes it's too general and it is going to be more specific. In particular, he said that nowadays it's not the media who we really train on going forward. It's about the individual who, and this is a direct quote, who has their own camera in hand. So that's something our policy really isn't clear about, and it's what we want to go, so we're going to move in that direction. How does that make you feel, knowing that there is going to be a revision specifically to target, say, First Amendment auditors?
Well, I applaud him for taking a proactive stance to improve what to me is a failure. As far as the First Amendment and freedom of expression, specifically freedom of the press, I am an independent journalist. I felt no need to have to explain that and it become an extra privilege in order to get his identification. Anyone should have the right to ask our public servants. I didn't just ask a question. He gave me directives of where I could stand, what I could do on private property they were on. It wasn't even public property. And if they're going to give me directives, they need to prove to me through their identification that they have any authority over me and what I could do anyway.
One of the things that Sheriff Hall said was that he believes that some of the First Amendment auditors are antagonistic. Do you see yourself as antagonistic toward officers?
There is a broad spectrum of behaviors amongst different auditors. They act many different ways. It's up to them. In fact, my approach to the officer, whether it's Metro Nashville Police Department or a state trooper or the sheriff's department, the way I carry myself should never interfere in the way they should treat the public, because they are public servants. There are some First Amendment auditors that are more provocative than others. I personally consider myself to be completely not provocative in any way. I was very kind to the officer, but that's not a requirement for them to do the right thing, no matter how I act. But I consider myself to be extremely non-provocative. I was extremely kind to that man, but it shouldn't matter either way. My behavior. They should still treat the public with respect.
Do you think there's a double standard, Reba? You don't identify yourself. When he starts recording, you try to conceal your identity. Does it strike you as a double standard that you won't identify yourself, but you're asking other people to identify themselves, officers and deputies?
Well, I am a private citizen, and there are laws that protect me from revealing my identity unless I volunteer that information. If I have broken the law and I am arrested under Tennessee state law, I am required to provide verbally my name and my date of birth. The reason I personally protect my identity is fear of police retaliation or any other retaliation, because I have a family that I want to protect. And if an officer approaches me and I have a camera and publish their behavior, and it's a poor reflection on him or her and their department, that is on them. But I do not have to identify myself. Many auditors do tell who they are. For me, it's a sense of protecting my family. But if I break the law and I'm arrested, I will of course comply and give my name and my date of birth per requirement. But I'm not a public servant. I am a private citizen and an independent journalist. But note, he never asked my identity.
Do you recognize that some people don't like what you do like what you do? What do you say to people who don't like what you do?
I would say this. To the people who don't appreciate what First Amendment auditors, or take me as a First Amendment auditor as an individual, I am protecting everyone's rights. I examine the behavior of our public servants in the way they treat the public, and it's preserving, hopefully making a change for the better. I want to build a bridge between law enforcement and the community. But hopefully, First Amendment auditors, mainly myself, my goal is to preserve our rights for myself, our children, their children's children, so on, in this wonderful country that we live in. I only want law enforcement and the community to develop some trust and respect. And I think it falls under the people with authority and power, such as the police department, sheriff's department, all of the above. It begins with them and their behavior. And that's how you build bridges. I also compliment, I call supervisors, even go to the Office of Professional Accountability and compliment officers who go above and beyond to be nice to me while I'm holding a camera, when they have the option to not respond to me, or if they behave poorly. I give them that open forum to show the public how they treat us. And it's up to them how they decide to respond to that.
So I I've done this for a while now. We sort of see the confrontational interview as sort of a last resort. We try to sit and talk with someone, and if they really won't talk to us, then we go out with our camera rolling.
Right.
Do you see this, just in the nature of it, as confrontational?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not, no.
Okay, Reba, I've got to stop this. I've got to go live at 6, so I'm going to stop it. And if I need anything else, I will reach out to you tomorrow if I have any follow-up questions. Does that sound okay?
Yes, and I would love it if you would email your the policy that you received from them.